Merry Christmas, Batman. It's Christmas Eve, and where can Bruce Wayne be found? Bundled up close to the fire with Alfred, watching A Christmas Story? No, of course not. Instead, he's out prowling the rooftops of Gotham with a $50 million bounty on his head, and 8 of the world's best assassins on his tail. Welcome, folks, to Batman Arkham Origins. Developed by WB Montreal, this prequel explores the early days of the Arkhamverse established in the previous 2 games. While it was panned at release, being called DLC for Arkham City, a technical mess at launch that hasn't gotten any better, and non-canon regarding the other games, Origins has since gained a bit of a cult following in recent years. I myself have grown to love it and find it to be an almost perfect origin story for the Arkhamverse. Before we can dive into it too much, we have to address the elephant in the room that comes with this prequel, the timeline. Now, while Arkham Asylum never really establishes itself at any specific point in the Dark Knight's career, it's fair to assume it's pretty far into Batman's career. At the point we see Bruce in Asylum, he has already gone through 3 Robins, met most of his rogues gallery, Barbara has been paralyzed by the Joker, and Bane has, maybe, broken Batman's back. We'll touch more on that later. One can assume that this version of Batman has been active for at least 15 or more years? Well, what if I told you all that happened in just 7? The largest fracture in the fanbase for Arkham Origins is the placement in the timeline the developers claim for it to take place. The main story of the game takes place on Christmas Eve during Bruce's 2nd year as Batman. While this is the perfect setting to explore an early Batman, the problem arises with how close W Montreal claims the game to take place to Arkham Asylum. According to the developers, Arkham Origins only takes place 5 years before Asylum. Now, I don't know about you, but all that stuff I listed earlier seems like a lot to happen in just 5 years. For me personally, I just ignore that detail as it is only a note from the development team and isn't mentioned anywhere in the game itself. In my head, I imagine Arkham Origins takes place at least 7 to 10 years before Arkham Asylum. Now that we have that out of the way, let's look at what makes this game an almost perfect origin story. As previously mentioned when discussing Arkham City, Batman is not meant to be seen as a tool for beating the snot out of criminals. He does what he does each night to save people. Well, that doesn't really apply to this early Batman.
When the mugger or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am. That is why they hired assassins, because I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises.
This is the Batman that sets out each night to cast fear upon Gotham and beat up criminals because he's angry. This Batman goes too far, dropping people off buildings and threatening torture. It's also the early days for Batman, and most people don't even know if he actually exists. The first encounter he has with someone in the game is scaring the piss out of a mobster just by the sight of his shadow. Only 2 years into his crusade, Bruce acts alone, pushing everyone away, afraid to get close to anyone. Any attempt from Alfred to assist or protect him is met with vitriol and anger. This Batman views relationships as weakness, holding him back from his full potential. It isn't until meeting a young Barbara Gordon that Bruce begins to question his approach. Barbara idolizes Batman, seeing the good he offers that the corrupt GCPD cannot. She's one of the few people he's met that appreciates what he does. She praises him while also asking him,
"Wait. Why do you do what you do?"
To which Bruce responds with,
"Because I made a promise."
This is the unspoken promise Bruce has made to his parents to keep Gotham safe. In my opinion, this moment does strike a note with Batman, reminding him why he's really out there. Not to beat the snot out of criminals like he currently is, but to save the city of Gotham like we see in Asylum and City. Batman's no-killing rule that is constantly tested throughout the Arkham series makes a return here. With this game taking place so early in the timeline, many of Gotham's residents don't know that Batman would never take a life. Criminals cower in fear of him, begging for their lives. Meanwhile, the Joker and Bane basically beg Batman to kill them all night. In one of the most memorable moments in the game, Batman is forced to literally stop and then jumpstart Bane's heart to make it appear he has killed him. I think this finale is one of, if not the best in the Arkham franchise. Last point for the Arkham Origins version of Batman. In order to stick with the idea that these characters are younger than the ones we've seen in previous games, Mark Hamill and the late great Kevin Conroy do not return to voice the Joker in Batman. While many were opposed to this at first, and yes, Conroy is the definitive Batman voice, I really like Roger Craig Smith's performance in this game. I feel he really matches well to the more rugged and aggressive Batman at this point in his life.
Penguin. Not a dime changes hands in this city he can't tell you about. If anyone knows where Black Mask and his assassins are, it's him. But Penguin's hard to find. His men are doing a deal here. I'll make them talk.
In Arkham Asylum, we see that Batman is essentially legal law enforcement. He personally brings Joker to processing, and the guards and police don't bat an eye. That relationship obviously took years of building trust, as evidenced by this game. At this early point in Batman's career, he's hunted by the police just as ruthlessly as any other criminal in Gotham. As stated before, this Batman wants to work alone, but there's one person that manages to make his ways through the cracks: Captain James Gordon. In arguably his most screen time in the entire Arkham series, Jim finds himself at odds with Batman on multiple occasions throughout the night. Jim isn't part of the corrupt members of the GCPD. He's the one good cop on the force. But he still doesn't support Batman's vigilantism either. However, that changes towards the end of the main story. Near the start of the game's third act, Firefly takes Gotham's Pioneer Bridge hostage, rigging it to blow. While Batman tries to disarm all 4 bombs alone, he doesn't make it due to Firefly catching him on his way to the last one. Well, who disarms that final bomb? That's right, Jim Gordon. Jim acknowledges that maybe Batman's crusade isn't all bad and extends his hand in partnership, but Bruce isn't ready for that kind of commitment. In the finale of the game, Joker causes a riot and takes control of Blackgate Prison, forcing Batman and Gordon to rush in without much of a plan beyond to stop the Joker. Together, the two put a stop to Joker and Bane's heartbeat monitor plus electric chair game and actually end up fighting alongside one another in the game's final free-flow combat scenario. Batman gains major respect from Gordon after sparing the Joker's life in the finale, remarking that the corrupt GCPD would have killed him. It's a great start to their eventual friendship, and I appreciate that the writers and developers didn't just make Bruce and Gordon instant BFFs after just one night, but that they do share some kind of respect for one another. With a massive bounty on his head, it's no surprise that this game is chock full of Batman villains, both new and old to the franchise. Between pretty good boss fights and interesting character dynamics, this game serves as an almost perfect origin story not only for Gotham's heroes, but also its worst villains. Let's take a look at some of the villains that leave a lasting impact on Batman and the franchise. So the big twist of the game is that it turns out Black Mask was never behind any of the events we see in the game. Instead, it was actually the Joker making his debut in Gotham. Massacring dozens and shaking up Gotham's criminal underworld, he immediately levels up the playing field, leaving Batman shocked and a little unprepared. At the start of their relationship, Joker doesn't care about Batman. He's just another obstacle in his way, and tries to kill him multiple times. However, after Batman saves his life during a battle at the Gotham Royal Hotel, Joker falls head over heels for the man. Batman is the one person in all of Gotham City who doesn't want him dead, and he can't let that go. He knows this is the blossoming of a beautiful rivalry. As mentioned before, Mark Hamill did not return for this go as the Clown Prince of Crime. This younger version of the Joker is instead voiced by Troy Baker, who I feel masterfully captures the mannerisms and villainous charms of Hamill's performance.
You see, it's a tradition in my house to open one present each on Christmas Eve. How about this one?
Now, Bane's involvement in the story is a bit complicated. In the first 2 acts of the game, he's a formidable foe that's able to overpower Batman both physically and mentally. There's even an adaptation of the Nightfall storyline in this game. I really like Bane's portrayal here. It's very similar to the comics that are so often overlooked. So much of the general public doesn't know that Bane is more than just a strong meathead. That being said, I honestly questioned it the first time I played the game, since the Bane we see in Asylum and City is that big dumb version. Well, don't worry, the game's third act takes care of that. In the game's finale, Bane takes an experimental new form of venom known as TN1, which physically changes him into the hulking juice box we see later in the timeline. Unfortunately, this also takes away his ability to form long-term memory, leaving him a blunt tool rather than the scalpel he was during the first 2 acts. While meant to connect this version of Bane to the one seen before, it also messes with the timeline a bit, as both Asylum and City claim that the actual Nightfall events occurred, which can't happen with Bane in this state. A bottom-tier Batman villain, Lonnie Macon, aka Anarchy, is here to do exactly what his name entails. In this game, he serves as a perfect foil to Batman, carrying out the same message but in a very different way. He wishes to purge the streets of crime and corruption, but through violence and fear. When they finally meet in person, Anarchy actually believes Batman has come to join him, not stop him. Once he's defeated, Bruce is surprised to find he's just a kid, angry at the corruption like he is. I feel Anarchy is the perfect villain for this early Batman, as their goals are so similar, but their methods are vastly different. I can't imagine this encounter doesn't make Bruce reconsider his approach to things in the future. Deadshot makes perfect sense to be here with the $50 million bounty on Batman's head. I mean, he's literally called the world's greatest assassin at times. However, he makes no significant appearance in the main story and is relegated to a side mission, which is probably for the best due to recent developments of that character. With the new Deadshot in the upcoming Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Rocksteady have since said the man seen in Origins and City is actually an imposter that stole the gear. So for continuity and lore reasons, it's probably a good thing this version doesn't have much screen time. Touted as one of the world's deadliest hand-to-hand combatants and a member of the League of Assassins, Shiva serves more of an overarching narrative purpose than gameplay mechanics. She has no real boss fight unless you have the Initiation DLC. However, she is here with a mission from Ra's al Ghul to sow the seeds of distrust in Gotham's systems such as the corrupt GCPD. She's also here to test Batman for the League, as Ra's has his eyes set on him for a successor. Her inclusion here works pretty well as a precursor to Ra's plans for Gotham in Arkham City. Along with the Dark Knight, his allies, and his enemies, Arkham Origins also serves as an almost perfect look at Gotham City before it all went to shit. Now, many people argued at launch that the map wasn't that special. It was just Arkham City's map again, and then some extra buildings. Well, that's the point. This version of Gotham hasn't met the likes of Joker, Bane, Two-Face, or Scarecrow. It's the bustling city preparing for the holidays, though everyone is indoors because of a winter storm. This is Gotham before it succumbs to a bit of the chaos that is Batman's Rogues Gallery, and I love it for that. Yes, half the map might just be Arkham City again, but isn't it nice to see these locations in a better state than the dilapidated, crumbling structures we see in City? Finally, there's the DLC to this game. In all honesty, the Arkham franchise has never really been able to master story expansions. Harley Quinn's Revenge in City was a disappointment, and Arkham Knight only ever gave us small bites. Well, that's where the story expansion for Arkham Origins, A Cold Cold Heart, steps in to pick up the slack. Fast forwarding to a week after the events of the main story, Mr. Freeze makes his debut in Gotham City. The player and Batman are set up to believe Mr. Freeze is the main antagonist here, with Batman remarking that,
I'll see this one wielding a Blackgate on a gurney.
Obviously, he's still working on that whole becoming a better hero thing. As the story progresses, we learn Freeze is actually the victim and is simply trying to save his dying wife, an adaptation of his rebooted origin story from the animated series. Upon learning the truth, Bruce remarks to Alfred that,
And are you still going to need that gurney?
I am, but not for Victor.
So that's right. Ultimately, you end up saving Freeze, and this is the start of their wonderful frenemy situation we see in Arkham City at night. I really like this DLC as the relationship between Freeze and Batman is one of my favorites, and it shows Bruce trying to become the hero Gotham deserves. And that, folks, is Batman Arkham Origins. Is it perfect? No. But not every story ever really is. While there are some continuity issues, I loved this journey into the Dark Knight's more violent years. We also get a great look at the emergence of Gotham's greatest threats and allies, as well as a glimpse at the city before it became the most dangerous place to live. It may not be the best story for some players, but I find it to be an almost perfect origin story for the Arkhamverse. Thank you so much for watching this exploration into the Dark Knight's origins with me. Let me know what you thought of Arkham Origins in the comments down below. If you liked what you saw here and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, happy holidays, and I'll see y'all in the next one.